The number of officers armies have is an important factor for success in a war situation. Officers knows the doctrine of the war in a professional manner. After the training they receive in military schools, they serve their country as well as equipped soldiers in their field of duty. An army that loses its officials will experience disruption in the chain of command. It is known that officers are primary targets in the conflicts due to their effect and the deterrent features. A unit that loses its commander may experience disruption in its operational plan. Small and medium-sized units that lost their commanders may easily disintegrate. The decisions made by the commander in times of crisis are very important in this respect. The most important difference between professional soldiers and recruits emerges in the times of crisis. For these reasons, the higher of the number of professional soldiers in the state's army, the greater its success and power. The Russian army lost many of its top commanders following the invasion attempt against Ukraine. Some of the losses of commanders suffered by the Russian army occurred during the fighting on the front lines, while others were mysteriously caused by the disappearance of the commanders. Since the beginning of the war, the Ukrainian army has carried out successful operations targeting the strategic points belonging to Russia. The main goal of the Ukrainian army was to inflict the most damage with the least casualties. Having succeeded at this point, the Ukrainian army increased the equipments of the soldiers in its army day by day. The Russian army, on the other hand, has lost its gains by sending recruits, prisoners, and old people to the front since the beginning of the war. The Russian army, which withdrew professional troops from the front due to the problems with the Wagner groups, has now started to lose its officers. The Ukrainian army has neutralized many of Russia's top commanders with the shock attacks in recent days. Now, if you're ready, let's examine the latest developments together. The news, which dropped like a bomb on the agenda, put many Russian troops in the state of emergency. As a result of the Ukraine's attacks on Russian troops, many commanders were lost. The operation launched by the Ukrainian army late at night has interesting details. An authorized person in the Ukrainian army had recently announced that Russian commanders involved in the war crimes were being followed by the Ukrainian intelligence. It seems that the Ukrainian intelligence had pressed the button to destroy the targets it has identified. According to information obtained from local sources, the Ukrainian army conducted an air operation in the occupied southern region. The outpost of the 7th Russian Airborne Division in the occupied Kherson region was targeted in the operation. According to information shared by local sources, many Russian soldiers were killed in the operation. However, Russian authorities did not share the number of the casualties. Russian troops and paratroops were making daily planning when the Ukrainian army launched the operation. The region, which had been monitored by the Ukrainian intelligence for some time, became the main focus of the operation as a result of the evaluation of the information obtained. Following the operation plan made by the Ukrainian army headquarters, aerial bombardment began. Russian troops started to run left and right in panic under the impact of the bombardment. But it was very difficult to escape the Ukrainian bombardment. Ukrainian drones bombarded the designated coordinates with a powerful bombardment and returned to their bases. Yevgeny Khanin, the head of the organizations of veterans of the 7th Guards Air Assault Division based on Novorossiysk in the Russia's Krasnodar region, confirmed the attack. Following the attack, many Russian units and Russian outposts were put on red alert. The most important factor in the success of the Ukrainian operation is that they were carried out when the Russian troops were most unprepared. The Ukrainian army, which successfully conducts reconnaissance and observation activities, uses technological means to the fullest. Ukrainian intelligence quickly transmits internal and external intelligence, information, and data to the Ukrainian army. As a result, the Ukrainian army carries out the operation before the Russian troops even realize what is happening. According to emerging information, another Russian commander, Colonel Andrei Kondrashkin, was recently neutralized by the Ukrainian army. The Russian commander destroyed by the Ukrainian army was the commander of the 31 Airborne Brigade, which played a key role in the Moscow's army siege of Mariupol. The news, confirmed by local sources, has plunged Russian troops into a deep anxiety. The Ukrainian army is demanding accountability for what has been done since the beginning of the occupation. For this reason, it is destroying key figures in the Russian army one by one. The Ukrainian people are extremely pleased with the success of the Ukrainian army's operations. While the Ukrainian army continues its operations, it is also successfully defends against Russian attacks. Last night, 17 of the 24th drones sent by Russia were destroyed by the Ukrainian Air Force. The Iranian-made Shahed drones targeted Sumy, Kirovohrad, and Dnipropetrovsk region. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky met with the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres in New York. They were discussed Russia's use of Iranian-made attack drones to target Ukrainian port infrastructure. Details have not yet been released, but new sanctions against Russia are expected. The Russian military has suffered many non-combat losses since the beginning of the war. The statements made by the Russian Defense Ministry the other day added a new one to these non-combat bases. In the statement, it was stated that the Sukhoi Su-34 fighter jet crashed into the Voronezh region of Russia. The Defense Ministry said that 2 crew members on the board the 50 million fighter jets were able to eject safely from the aircraft before it crashed at 10 a.m. local time. Officials said that the Supersonic jet crashed while conducting a planned training flight without ammunition, and the cause of the crash could be a technical malfunction. They also said that the crew was in a good condition and that the jet crashed into an empty area far from the cities. According to information obtained from local sources, it was determined that the jet's landing great malfunction and caught fire after the jet crashed. It was determined that the Russian jet crashed in a field near Kashirsky in a Voronezh area. The non-combat losses of the Russian army are seen as a serious problem. According to searches, between February 24, 2022 and August 17, 2023, 21% of Russia's confirmed manned aircraft losses, which include jets, helicopters, and transport aircraft, are due to the Russian system failures, pilot errors, friendly fire, or other accidents not directly related to the war against Ukraine. The value of Russia's non-combat losses exceed millions of dollars. This situation requires the authorities to make precautions. Especially during the war period, when the Russian economy is facing major problems, the Russian army is also losing its resources due to the insufficient resources. Social media users who expressed their views on the issue made posts accusing the Kremlin administration of failing to manage the process. The increasingly difficult living conditions of the Russian people caused the Kremlin to face reactions. However, the Kremlin wants to make new moves in order not to lose its increasingly difficult war position. How do you evaluate the strategic operation carried out by the Ukrainian army? How do you interpret the Russian army's loss of its commanders? Do you think the reconnaissance and surveillance activities of the Ukrainian intelligence give the Ukrainian army an advantage? How do you assess the non-combat losses of the Russian army? Which region do you think could be the next target of the Ukrainian army's offensive? We value your opinion. Please share it with us.